I appreciate everybody coming in to learn a little bit about cottage country and the different things to consider when you have a client or customer looking up in cottage country. I've brought Dean, Michelle, and Jennifer Bacon onto, and they're from Century 21 Granite. They are both selling currently up in cottage country. We have referred quite a few clients over the last year to them, and they've done just a fantastic job with them. We have some really good testimonials from our agents that have referred business up to Dean and Jennifer. And what they're here to do is to give you some insight and some overview on what to expect if you're selling a cottage property opposed to your typical residential resale that we're so accustomed to. So without further ado, Dean, Jennifer, how are you? You're up in the Kawarthas. You're up in the Kawarthas.
We are.
Yes, we actually live on Balsam Lake,
Yep.
right? So it's in Cobeconk, Fenland Falls, Bob Cajun area. Our main office is in Minden, but we service all of the Kawarthas and Halliburton. So as far over as Buckhorn, and then as far north as Halliburton, and we've even gone up to close to Bancroft
And Aurelia.
and Aurelia as well.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
So you've got a little presentation, you're sort of a high level overview, and I'll let you guys sort of go through that. If everyone, if anybody has any questions, of course, you can use the chat window, but why don't we get through the seminar and then we'll open up the floor and ask questions, answer some questions, and go from there.
Okay,
Sounds
super. Well, let's dive into it. So first question we have is, where is the fire hydrant? Go ahead, Jenny. Where is it?
Oh, there are no fire hydrants unless you're looking in a small town, but we've been asked the question, which is kind of an interesting concept because you don't know what you don't know. So yeah, we've had buyers say, well, where is the fire hydrant? And it's just not there unless you're buying in town.
Mm-hmm.
So Fenland Falls, Lindsay, but there is no fire hydrant in cottage country. If you're buying a cottage, you've got a volunteer fire department that will truck in eventually, and if necessary, draw from the lake. They're not hooking up. There are no water systems in cottage country.
So
yeah, just in case you're wondering.
Okay.
Yeah. So in theory, buying and selling in cottage country is similar to the city. Properties, buildings, lot lines, on paper, it's pretty much the same, but when you dig a little deeper, there are a lot of variables that do come into play that you don't see anywhere else except in these rural cottage country properties. So basically, you don't know what you don't know. And what we've realized, we've been living, working, cottaging in the area for 20 plus years. There's always going to be something you have to overcome with the transaction, with the property, whether it's shore road allowances, some really wonky septic systems, shared wells, encroachments. You really have to do your homework when you are trying to buy and sell different cottage properties.
What about wet certificates too, right? With fireplaces, that sort of thing. But let's get started. Let's dig into it. So you know what? It's the old mantra: location, location, location. Of course. Oh,
I went too far.
We went too far. So there we go. So you know what? Not all waterfront is created equal. Believe it or not. Yeah. So am I going to go or are you going to go?
I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, thank you. Okay. We will talk over each other a fair bit. So just please get used to that. No, it's interesting. 90% of the calls we get from people say they want to buy a cottage. Okay, great. And so we say, okay, like what are you looking for in a cottage? Well, you know what? Here's what we want. We want spectacular sunsets. We want sandy beach for the kids to go into. We want deep water off the dock, and we don't want any weeds. Fantastic fishing, big lake chains so we can go boat back and forth. We don't want any bugs, right?
Yeah. Four-season, turnkey, four-season cottage, 2-bed, 2-bath.
All within 2 hours of the GTA. And we say, okay,
fantastic.
Well, if you have $4 million, we can help you. Not many people have $4 million. So what do we do with that?
So we start to drill down a bit. Why do you want deep off the dock? Why do you want no weeds. We try to really drill down to find that true need
Mhm.
so that we can kind of eliminate all of the extra stuff and really find something that fits their budget. And then sometimes they want all those things, and you really have to get creative in how to do it. So you might be looking at, maybe you're not looking at direct private waterfront, which is the gold standard that everyone wants, but maybe you're looking at something with a road between, or deeded access to a bigger lake, or back lots with public access, or you're looking at a waterfront community or motor restricted lake. There are different ways to get what you want within your budget,
That's right.
as long as we keep your main criteria, your big
Core need.
core need in mind. Yeah. So, yeah, so that being said, that's great. So we found the lot, but there are a lot of other factors to consider when you're buying waterfront. So someone who wants to be on the water might, well, you might factor in whether or not they're on the Trent Severn waterway, because that's a premium, because you're on a big lake
The
chain.
Trent Severn Waterway, in case anyone's not aware of, it's the navigation route. And actually, from our lake here on Balsam Lake, you can travel the world by boat. We can travel to Georgian Bay and throughout all the Great Lakes there, or we can go
Straight down to
down-
Ontario. Let me finish here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
down through
Through the lakes.
Peterborough and to Lake Ontario, and even up to Montreal through the St. Lawrence Seaway. So yes, there's a premium there, but that's really for someone who's into boating, right? If you're just a kayaker,
There's no value
why
there.
pay the premium for that?
Exactly.
Okay.
So are you on a reservoir lake? And reservoir lakes will fluctuate throughout the season because their main purpose is to feed into bigger lake chains. Like for us on the Trent Severn, we've got several feeder systems that feed in to manage our water levels, and we draw from them. So these reservoir lakes may fluctuate up and down throughout the year,
And-
depending on.
And most of them are in Halliburton.
Yeah.
Right. So those lakes were created back in the 1800s just to service the Trent Severn waterway. So when we're up in Halliburton, we have to watch and tell people, like, can't tell them we're from Balsam because we're not very popular up there. No, we don't control the water.
No, we just take advantage of our good fortune.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at rivers, because sometimes, I mean, there are some lovely riverfront properties. Do you have access to a bigger body of water? If you're a power boater, or your kids like to go tubing, wakeboarding, that kind of thing, if you're on a river, you may be blocked by dams on either side. You won't be able to get to bigger water. So it kind of limits the usability of the water. Is the river even deep enough for boating? There are some great rivers in Halliburton, Kawarthas, but they're just not deep enough to get a boat in. They're perfect for kayakers, for canoeists, but you'll never get a boat in there, or you'll never be happy in there if boating is your thing. And then you think about elevation. Elevation
This
is
is a big one.
huge.
This is a big one.
Yeah, how many stairs do you have to deal with? Especially if you're looking in Halliburton, stairs are going to be an issue. So when someone says it's a gently sloping lot, we know that means you're going to have to deal with some pretty decent elevations.
And some people are okay with that because with the higher elevation, you get that bigger, vast view, which is lovely. But then, if you're down at the dock and you run out of beer, do you really want to go up 80 stairs to restock?
Or if you're older, like older people aren't necessarily able to get up and down stairs as easily. Is your property on a floodplain? There are some areas in Kawarthas and Halliburton that have cottages on floodplains. They flood out every year. It can be an issue. It is an issue.
Yeah.
What about exposure? Because everyone wants that beautiful western exposure, which is, yes, it's the gold standard. It's lovely. But if you're on a bigger lake, prevailing winds mean you'll have a rougher water at your shoreline because the way the wind travels. And in the winter time, you could have potential ice damage when it thaws in the spring. So there are definitely a lot of things to consider just with the location. So you want to tell the story about the guy? I mean, it's a cliche.
Okay, well, no, I will tell the story. So on our lake here on Balsam, and you know what? Everyone will say, well, I don't want any weeds. So every lake has weeds. Okay, it's natural. We don't call them weeds, they're aquatic plants, right? But in our lake, on our lake especially, there's one area that I love fishing in. It's great for bass and pike and walleye and everything else in there. But it's also nice for water snakes and deer flies and lots of bugs. Well, there's some cottages built in there, and there was a place last year sold for, it had like 20 offers or something, sold way over asking. And this was, I think it was in the early spring. So I don't even know if the buyer was aware that he's buying a place in a swamp. I don't know. But it's definitely a swamp. Like, and unless you're Shrek, I don't know. It's just not my idea going to the cottage because you can't swim there. You're just,
But if swimming's not, I mean, it's perfect for someone who doesn't want.
If you like water snakes and everything.
Well, if you're a fisherman and
environmentalist like that.
Yeah.
But anyway.
There are people out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so our job is to serve our clients' best interests. So we definitely ask these questions. And there are areas that we refuse to show to trade in because we know that there are seasonal risks, that there are risks with the properties that they likely will not be happy about. Alternately, we also know the difference between seasonally low water levels and just buying in a pond or a ditch.
That's right.
Yeah. So those are just some things to think about location-wise when you're working in the area.
Any questions so far from anyone? I know there's a lot there, and we're just doing high-level stuff, but any questions so far, Aaron?
No, we're good so far.
Lovely.
Not going too quick. We're okay.
No, great.
So our next question is, what kind of car do you drive? And I mean, it may be silly, but it is one of the first questions we ask our buyers when they call in looking for cottages. Because if you've ever traveled through some of the roads in Haliburton County, you have, you know that it can be a challenge getting in and out of some of these areas.
Cow paths, some of them.
Yeah. Two ruts down a forested area. We spend a lot of time in the Kawarthas, so we're kind of fortunate because most of our roads are in reasonably good shape. A lot of them are municipally maintained. We do have a few private and unassumed roads and lots of dirt roads, but for the most part, you can get in and out quite easily. But we do have a 4-wheel drive truck, so it makes getting
you have the Toyota Tundra, which is 4-wheel drive, which is really in the winter, it's the only way we would go into Haliburton. I've got an Audi A4 and I won't really travel up there. I just can't. I don't want to risk getting stuck. And how embarrassing would that be if I have buyers going with me and then,
Yeah. And especially if you're in the wintertime, especially shoulder seasons when it's mucky and icy. Yeah. I mean, we had that happen this spring.
Yeah. Okay. So we had a buyer wanted to, and it was late spring, Aaron. And so we just had a snowfall the night before, and we're looking up in Haliburton there, and we get to one place, and it didn't suit her. Okay, fine. She's driving a truck. So we said, okay, well, why don't you follow us to the next showing? Oh, no, I'm good. I'll meet you there. Okie dokie. Right. So she took off, and then as we were making our way down a one-way.
It was a year-round road.
Okay. But it's one way and it's maintained by private operator. Okay. So who knows when they get out. Anyway, as we slowly get to the cottage, I look up and I'm like, oh no. And sure enough, there's our buyer stuck deep in the ditch. Right? And what else was going on, Jenny?
I mean, it was just a perfect storm because it was a brand new listing and it was a Sunday, they were taking offers on the Tuesday. Mm-hmm. So there was a ton of activity on the road on this one lane. You couldn't pass anybody on it. So all these agents and buyers were working their way down the road. But it was also lunchtime on a Sunday. So any year-round cottagers were trying to get out. So we basically held up traffic
2 hours
for 2 hours trying to dig her out. And we should have known that there was going to be an issue because as we were pulling into the road, there was a little plowed out area of cars. So all of the cottagers would park their cars at the top of the road and hike in. We should have known at that point. But yeah, it was a bit of a gong show that day.
We got her.
we had other agents even trying to
Yeah.
help us out, and
Anyway.
Yeah. She got out.
Yeah.
Excellent. So
There's at our cottage, we have two cottagers that drive really nice cars, and these they're summer cars, a Corvette and a M3,
Mhm.
and they only bring them up like once a year or so. I've only seen them once a year, but when they come up, they say we can't bring them up because of the sap. The sap that
Right. Yes. I didn't
tap
know
off
that.
the car is impossible. So they'll bring it, even the covers. The guy of the Corvette bought a Corvette cover, and then he realized he bought a really nice cover. He didn't want the sap on the cover. So things to be aware of.
It's true. Yeah. Those low bottomed cars just aren't meant for cottage country.
Yeah.
No.
And the other consideration too, we said to some buyers last year too, it was probably a 20-minute drive down this private road. And if you see on the picture there, it almost is like it's a one-way road with very little switchbacks to accommodate another car coming. And so they said, oh, well, okay, 20 minutes down this road, it's not so bad. I said, no, let's think longer term here. It's 20 minutes today, but if you're going to be going there every weekend, that's going to add up. Are you going to be comfortable doing that? Right? So it's another consideration.
Yeah.
Right? I know I wouldn't. I'm just not patient enough for that sort of thing, but that's just me. Some people would love it. I don't know.
You're a little spoiled though.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any questions on that one?
Nope.
Okay.
Excellent. So let's keep moving. So this is an important one to keep in mind, that there are still places in cottage country where there's absolutely no cell service. We have several dead zones in our area. It's improving every day. We've lived here full time for 5 years now, and the changes in our Wi-Fi at home has grown by leaps and bounds. So it is getting better every day. The government has a task force. They're working on trying to make sure that it's available across cottage country. It's a big issue. It's a known issue, and they're working on it. But if you are showing property in cottage country, your GPS,
Don't trust it.
Don't trust it. You're going to need a backup. I mean, we've been caught in situations where we're showing property and we're driving to the far reaches of Halliburton. We're meeting clients. We all get there. It's lovely. We look at the property. We got back in the car. You go in, you punch in the next address in your phone just to try to get you there, and you get the spinning wheel of death. You have no service. We can get around pretty well because we know the area, we know the ins and outs of where we're going, but you still have to get back out. You have to be able to snake your way back to where you do have service so that you can kind of get yourself going again. It can be pretty nerve-wracking sometimes when you don't know where you're going.
Especially when you've got buyers trailing you and you're supposed to be the expert where you're going, and then all of a sudden you don't know where the hell you're going. So
yeah,
we got a fail-safe backup. We bring maps.
We bring
maps. It's crucial. I mean, it sounds like it's 20 years ago, but you need them.
But you need them.
Yeah.
In some areas, you really, really do.
Yeah.
And then the other thing to consider is don't trust your GPS blindly.
Yeah.
Just to make life interesting in cottage country, there are several roads, that have several different names. And
There's several lakes that have different names, believe it or not.
so
Yeah.
Yeah.
As weird as that sounds. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's easy to get confused, to get thrown off. Your GPS may not find what you're looking. You may not be able to find it in Google Maps or in your iMap on your phone, in your nav system in your vehicle, depending on the age of the system you're using and the road that you're looking for. You may not find it, and if you do, this is a fun story. This is a news story for us. This just happened to us a couple of weeks ago. It's kind of funny. If you do, don't always trust the directions your GPS is giving you, because a couple of weeks ago, we were going to look at a property on 4 Mile Lake, which is just the other side of town for us. It's a lake we know. It's a lake we've been to.
Yeah.
But we hadn't been to this specific road on this lake. So I put it into the nav system in our truck, and off we went, and it took us from the municipal road to a dirt road to a private road, and they kept getting narrower and narrower. And Dean looked at me and said, is this right? I said, yeah, that's what it's telling us. Keep going, keep going. So we kept going and kept going. The road got narrower and narrower, and then it looked like it ended, but it continued a little bit. And
Jenny says, keep going.
No,
I'm
no,
like,
this
I
is
don't
it.
know.
The
I
map
don't
is
know.
saying, go, go, go. So we keep going, and it keeps getting narrower. Trees are growing over us. It
Big
was
rocks.
big. We look up, and then there's this rock cliff. And Dean said, no, Jenny.
This is an ATV trail.
No. So it
Oh, man.
took 20 minutes to back out.
Just to turn around, I don't know if anyone knows, but Toyota Tundra is a rather large truck, so the turning radius is tough anyway.
So we got out.
We
We got out. Took us 20 minutes.
were late for the appointment, but anyway,
But yeah, don't
gotta watch.
necessarily trust that your system is going to tell you to go where you should be going. Yeah. Another reason why you shouldn't be driving a low-bottomed car in cottage country.
Oh no, that would have been it. That would have been it.
It is, yeah. So yeah, make sure you're double checking your maps. Just because it's the fastest route doesn't make it the best.
Okay, the other thing I'm going to throw in here, just because we're talking about cell service, another big question we get is internet availability.
Yeah.
Right. It's huge up here. It's the major question, I think, because people know that they can work from home or work from the dock, and what a nice option that would be. And it is, but every area is unique. And like Jennifer said, it is getting better, year by year, but there's certainly challenges up here. So don't just blindly say to someone, oh yeah, you'll get it, because the cottage over there, he's got internet, so you'll get it, no problem. That's an assumption that could really cause problems down the road.
Yeah, there are still places in Halliburton that don't have Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And speeds aren't what they are in the city.
No.
What you're getting here is definitely not the same quality you're getting.
There's
There's
some places are, some places are fine. And you know what? Like Aaron, you mentioned we're beta testing for Starlink right now.
Yep.
And that's becoming an option, but it's also a challenge too, because they're in beta testing. It's not reliable. If you have any obstructions whatsoever, forget it.
It affects the quality. So yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But it's getting better.
It's getting better.
Okay.
Yeah. So some other logistical issues to consider. I think
that's an old picture, because in the city of Kawartha Lakes, we don't even allow black or green garbage bags anymore. They have to be clear bags. Right, Aaron?
Yep. I just take it home with me.
Oh, there's that option.
Even better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is more on a listing side, because
we've been talking an awful lot about buying, but we're also going to talk about, if you were listing up here, some things you need to consider.
Yeah, and that happens. We're seeing more and more out of area for sale signs, which is great, because sellers want to work with someone they know, like, and trust. We know that that's the basis of our business. And a lot of times they'll go to their city agent because they've got the relationship already, and they don't know who to call in cottage country.
Right. But
which is wonderful.
Beware. There's a few things you need to know.
Exactly. So most cottage communities aren't year-round communities, and people are generally weekend warriors. They're here Friday afternoon, leave again Sunday. So Monday to Thursday, it's usually pretty quiet. There might not be people around. So cottages need, if you're selling a cottage, things can happen during that Monday to Thursday that you may have to deal with, because there's no one else around to deal with it.
The sellers won't be there. Right.
Sellers won't be there. If a bear happens to, if garbage day's on Tuesday, you put your garbage out Sunday, and a bear happens to wander by and make a complete mess of your garbage, that needs to be cleaned up. It doesn't show well.
Yeah, imagine if someone pulls up to see the place, and the first thing they see is garbage everywhere and bear evidence. It's not going to look good. And that happened to us. We were at our place. We were checking it. We like to check regularly. And
we ended up picking up garbage.
We ended up picking up a lot of garbage, and then we had to take it to the dump. But that's part of our
that's our job.
Role.
Yeah,
we're okay with it.
So big storms. If a storm blows through, it might. And you're on a private road or a seasonal road, you might flood out. How are you going to? The road might flood out.
Oh, I thought you were saying, like, if a windstorm took some trees down.
Oh, that could happen too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So big storms in the area. we like to go back and check and make sure that there's no damage to the property itself if it happens during the week, or if there's any.
What about winter?
Yeah, winter, a lot of shoveling, a lot of salting, because you don't want anyone getting hurt. You want people to access the property.
Here's the thing that drives me nuts, just a personal pet peeve of mine. So place is listed and we go to see it and it snowed like even overnight or the day before, or sorry, a couple days before. And you don't have any access there because the driveways aren't shoveled. The deck isn't shoveled. Like we carry a shovel in the truck, right? But like that listing agent, it could be local or from wherever, I think they have a responsibility to make sure it's accessible to any potential buyers, right? Like, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You know, whether they hire someone or do something, or the listing agent themselves take care of it. But what about salting the steps? Like, we don't want any potential buyers slipping and falling. Like, what kind of impression is that? Like, it drives me nuts. Anyway,
especially considering you have people coming up 2 hours to see it, and then it can't even get in because it's not shoveled or something.
100%.
Exactly.
100%. Yeah. Sorry, I did.
Have you guys ever run into like a red squirrel problem, get into the cottage and tear things up?
No,
but there's a lot of critters around for sure. That,
we had a cottage a couple doors down, and they're going to be renting it out, and they had it all ready and all set up, and all of a sudden the red squirrel got in somehow into the rafters or whatever, and then had babies and and trying to get them out. So you get all these little things that happen, and they thought they had it all taken care of, and then 2 days before the person was coming to rent, they had to quickly find some sort of pest control because they just couldn't get rid of the red squirrel, and it was just they're pretty bit of a nuisance.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, and then there's sign calls, right? Like
so sign calls, right? Yeah, we get some of our listings. We'll just get a sign call. Hey, we're here. We can. You know what? We're 10, 15 minutes away or 20 minutes away. Yeah, give us a bit of time. We'll get there, right? And we go. But if you're a long distance away, now what do you do, right? Like, because we don't want to, potentially miss out on any opportunity for that listing to get some eyeballs.
There are times, when people are just in the area for a limited amount of time, they're here specifically looking, they drive by, they see it.
They're driving to a friend's cottage and they say, yeah, we always look for a cottage around here. Hey, that one might be good. Can we see it right now?
You do your screening, and if it makes sense, we go.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
What else have we got there, Jenny?
I think that's about it on this. Is there anything else that you can think of?
Well, here's another one too. Like, it's so random sometimes up here. Like a well. We had a listing a few years ago, and it was an older fella, and we went through everything.
Does that have to do with? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Am I allowed to go?
I don't know.
Oh my! I wait till this is over. I'm gonna get smacked for this. Anyway, the old fella, we went through everything. Yeah, there's your well. Da. So we had a firm offer, was accepted. It was great. Everyone's happy. And then he tells us, oh yeah, you're gonna have to talk to Joe, the neighbor, about the well. I'm like, oh, what do you mean? Well, I've been letting him use the well for the past 30 years. The well's on my property, but I let Joe next door use it because he can't find any water at his place. What a logistical nightmare. Now we have to tell the buyers, okay, actually, you can cut off Joe next door, right? That won't make you a nice new neighbor or anything, and just all this logistical stuff. So now we even check when we list, like, whose well is it? It's on your property. You're not sharing it. It's just sort of a default that we would never have thought of.
No one ever thinks.
And why would you think that? But it's important to know and cover all these bases.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get into some other fun stuff.
Septic systems.
Woo!
Very exciting stuff.
Oh yeah.
They're not complicated. I mean, there is no. Everyone in cottage country is on a septic system of some sort. Well, that's a septic system, is it not? It's a system.
It's a system.
Everyone has a waste management system.
There we go.
There you go. It's not complicated, generally speaking. I mean, if you've got the traditional septic system, waste comes in, solids drop, water comes up, flows into another chamber, and then works its way out into a leaching bed. Bob's your uncle. You get it pumped out every couple of years, and you just go on as you go. But not every property accommodates, like you said, a septic system. We're on a holding tank. We have a limestone base here. We don't have room or the ability to put a leaching bed because of the hard bedrock. So we've got a septic tank. So in that sense,
A holding tank.
a holding tank. Thank you. Waste goes in and then it gets pumped out. And we do that on a regular basis. A lot of people who have septic tanks,
Septic systems with the leaching bed, yes.
no, I'm talking septic tanks, may also have gray water systems as
Holding
well
tanks. If you have a holding
Holding
tank, you
tanks.
may also have gray water.
to deal with non-poopy
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so most people, when they're listing their house or when they're buying their house, there will be we always try to look for a septic installation report.
Yeah.
And you try to find out when they last pumped the tank, to try to find out how well they maintain the system. Septic installation reports, generally they're on file since what,
1974 with municipalities.
when they started
generally.
keeping records.
Yeah.
So
If
your
they're
tank,
older than that, then
chances are you're going to need
you're
to
gonna
replace
need
it
to
pretty
replace it.
soon. They've got a lifespan of about what, 20, 30 years?
could be 40 depending on usage.
Because a
Right.
cottage wouldn't be heavy, consistent use.
Depends.
Depends. Anyhow, yes. So we try to get that installation report. It'll let us know when it was installed, gives us an idea of the age of the tank. It gives us an idea of the size of the tank. Very important to know. Because
Okay, so septic systems are the cottage. It has to be rated to accommodate, the tank has to be big enough to accommodate the number of bedrooms in a cottage, Aaron. Did you know that?
bedroom
Yes.
slash
Yeah.
The fixtures. Were you aware of that?
Yeah, I was confused between obviously the fixtures. I thought at one point it was bathrooms or toilets or something like
Generally
that.
go by bedrooms
bedrooms
because
and fixtures. It's
Okay.
a combination, a ratio of the two. So fixtures are like just taps and showers and toilets and laundry, depending on how much pressure you're putting on the tank determines the size you need.
Mhm.
In Halliburton, they're decommissioning bedrooms.
well, there's
based
an
on
inspection
size.
process going on throughout Halliburton right now. I'm fully supporting it because we need to protect our lakes, right? These old systems that are failing and they're being overused, that shit, excuse the term, but it will get to the lakes, and the lakes are our most precious resource up here. We have to protect them. So I'm never, some people are opposed to it. Oh, why should I have to? No, you have to do that. So anyway, they're saying, okay, if your cottage has 5 bedrooms, but your system's only rated for 3 and the fixtures and all that, the ratio, you're going to have to replace that system or decommission those bedrooms. Right.
And they've come back and they're being very, very strict about it because they're coming and they're doing this work and they're giving them 2 weeks to either right size their tank or decommission bedrooms. And they're coming back to check. And if they haven't done the work or they're not in the process of doing the work, they will be fined. There are some serious ramifications in Halliburton County right now.
Tara says there's pretty sure it's a combo of number of fixtures and square footage of structure. Bedrooms are a big consideration because the municipalities will say, okay, if you have 5 bedrooms, then we can reasonably expect this many people will be using that system.
Yeah, so it's the pressure on the system.
Okay.
And that happened to us. We were working with buyers, interesting story, interesting enough, on a property. They were buying a lovely 3
They were our
bedroom.
buyers,
They
right?
were our buyers.
Yes.
And the property that we were buying, the septic was fine. We'd done our septic
had an
installation
inspection.
report.
Yeah.
We had the septic system
Inspected,
and
was
everything
good.
passed. It was fine. However, the people that were selling the house were buying another house in the same community. And it was a 5-bedroom house, but the septic system was rated for 3. And the listing, they were promoting it as a 5-bedroom. It was
Yes.
purchased, it was
As a
priced as a
5-bedroom.
5-bedroom. They paid for a 5-bedroom, but the tank was rated for 3. So the health unit got involved, lawyers were involved. They had to reduce the price. There was a lot of legal ramifications. It held up our close for about 3 weeks while they tried to sort this out.
It was a shit show, Erin.
Pardon the pun.
No pun intended.
It was a total mess, and there was a lot of backlash. It was, luckily for us, I mean, it didn't affect us except for an extension for 3 weeks, but it was terrible. It was very stressful. So it's important to get the information. We know when you're looking at that septic installation report, get it, understand what it's telling you, understand how it reflects on what the property is, what the cottage, the bedrooms. Make sure that you're right sizing it, because otherwise you could there could be some
more questions
issues,
here,
yeah.
Jenny. What do we got? How often do you empty the holding tank from it if it's used full time? Well, okay, so that's a good question, and we get that too. Like, well, how often are you going to do it every week? You're going to, well,
depends on usage.
It all depends on usage and the size of the tank.
We do ours
like
quarterly.
Yeah, but it's
roughly.
We have gray wells here, so it's different. But if you're doing everything goes in has to come out. So some people are going to be very cautious of water use, right? You're not going to be running the dishwasher 3 times a day and laundry all the time and this
long
and
showers,
and you're gonna might want to hang up the sign in the bathroom. If it's yellow, let it mellow. When it's brown, send it down. Anyway, that's the answer. Well, Jenny, it's true. It's a cottage thing.
We had to bring that up.
Cottages, that's the way it works.
Yeah.
Right. Another question: is there any information source for knowing the flood zone in rural towns, or is it just the local knowledge of agents and people who live here? Can I answer that?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. It's really, it depends. And not every year is an area going to flood out, but locals will know. Local agents will know. Local knowledge is so important on this. There, like we said earlier, there is an area that if it's a high flood year, places flood out regularly. And that's why we don't even trade in that area. I mean, it could be fine for 8 years. It could be great. Prices are great. Yeah, I want to look at this cottage. Okay, but let's just warn you that
there's potential.
There's potential here. Insurance may be higher, may not exist. Who knows? So we just avoid it, right?
Yeah. So
there's we're typically in our area looking at Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority or different conservation authorities that govern the areas. Interesting, as you get up to cottage country, there really is no conservation authority that has jurisdiction. I think it goes under the municipal.
It's quite the conservation here.
Is it? Do you have? But that only extends to the top of certain area. Like we were looking at a place in Norland that was not part of Kawartha Lakes.
That's right.
And it was governed as soon as it gets to a certain point. I'm just going to remember it's the Ministry of Forest, I believe, that now takes over.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they have some other maps. They're not quite as detailed, but anyway, so I was doing some research on different things, but there's some somebody just posted a link there to some floodplain mapping.
Fantastic. Yeah.
So if it's part of the Conservation Authority, you'll get those, but if it's not, it goes into forestry and it gets difficult to find that information as you go further north, I know.
We were looking at a property a few years ago on the Black River. Remember that?
Yeah.
And apparently it's prone to flooding as well. And I couldn't find it. Google.
Everywhere.
I Googled, and you just kind of look, and then you start to see old news articles about flooding, and you just kind of start to do your research, and you remember, like, now I know Black River, there are areas that will flood out because I Googled it. And so it's just a matter of digging.
And you can't, Erin, you can't say 100% that it will flood, right? It may not, like I said, never do, but I just don't want to take that chance. And it's generally riverfronts. It's not lakes.
Not many lakes. Yeah.
So again, not all waterfronts created equal.
And then a lot of times the if it's prone to flooding or has any flooding or in the floodplain, obviously the septic systems are going to be issues. And I mean, it all is part and parcel, I guess, to the whole system. They're going to be different type of systems maybe to look for in the, I don't know. It's septic's it's a big topic, isn't it? I mean, you could probably have one topic just for septic and talk 2 hours about it.
Mhm.
We could.
One question was, when putting in an offer, what sort of conditions are you finding up there for septic systems? Is it a septic inspection, and are they fairly quick up there? They can get it done in 3 days, that sort of thing?
Okay, so right now,
No conditions, right? Yeah.
when's the last time we wrote a condition in? I don't know, but let's assume it's a balanced market and we have time and do all our due diligence. Yeah, you put in a septic inspection, so it's separate from just a home inspection. And the home inspector, the guy we use, he's awesome. He's versed in all aspects of the cottage. So wet certificate for fireplaces, septic systems, everything. And what happens is they actually come in, he hires a pumper, comes in, pumps out the whole thing, and now he's going to start looking around.
They dig around, they poke in, they get the buyers to snoop around and stick their nose in so
And-
that they
yeah.
understand what they're doing. It's so important because
yeah.
you're taking this on as a buyer, so you're going to want to understand it. And our inspector is brilliant because he takes the time and explains, and he really wants
He educates.
our buyers to understand what they're getting into.
But the other thing to keep in mind for septics, Aaron, the general costs. So here's something we would say, and if we're going in with an offer without any conditions in this market, we just caution our buyers to say, okay, let's assume the worst case scenario. It's an old cottage, that septic has to go. You're going to have to replace it, whether it's this year or next year. Budget between $25,000 and $30,000. Okay.
And would I be fair to say, don't necessarily expect to be able to put in a holding tank?
No, not every.
You can't assume, like,
No.
it depends on the topography, really. And it's come a long way, actually, the septic systems, they can do raised beds, right?
They need less space.
Yeah, holding tanks need less space, but
Well-
they can. And here's the other thing: if it's on a grade, like our old cottage was, the cottage was lower than where the holding tank went. Then you have a sewage pump that pumps the sewage up into the tank, and that's quite common too.
You see that a lot in Halliburton.
They get quite creative up here, the septic guys. But we know the septic installers up here, and it's nice. It's nice when you have that relationship.
But yeah, you're right. Not every, I know that they would rather best case scenario is a septic system. You really have to prove to the health unit that you cannot have a septic system on your property before they will even entertain the idea of a holding tank.
Yeah, I've heard people say, oh, 30,000 is a lot, I'll just get a holding tank. And then they realize, no, if you can have a septic,
Yes,
they're going to make you have a septic, right?
yeah,
For sure.
they prefer that.
Yeah.
All right, let's
All
keep
right,
going.
let's
We
keep
could, like we said, we could be here for
This
hours.
could
It could be.
So let's talk about foundations. So we're kind of looking at water sources. We've kind of brought in water sources and heat sources into the foundations, mainly because a lot of buyers, especially in the market we're working in right now, are tapped out in their budget, and they're looking for creative ways to get into the cottage market. So 4-season is no longer viable option for them. They can't afford a 4-season cottage. So they start looking at a 3-season cottage. 3-season means spring, summer, fall. You're not coming in the wintertime. You don't have,
But you could,
You
but you're
could.
going to be really roughing it,
it's,
right?
I would not be coming in the wintertime. You might.
Oh yeah.
Anyhow, so the first thing to think about when you're looking at a cottage to determine whether or not this is a year-round cottage or a seasonal cottage is access. You want to look at what kind of road you're dealing with. If you're on a private road, there may not be, you may not have winter access. You're looking for a 4-season road. It doesn't have to be a paved road. It doesn't have to be a municipal road, but the listing will indicate whether or not you're dealing with a year-round road or a seasonal road. So if you've got the year-round road, now you can start looking at the structure itself. You can get there in the wintertime, but will you be comfortable in the building in the wintertime? So then you start looking at water sources, and if you're drawing your water from the lake or river, or if you're drawing directly from your water source, your waterfront,
Yes.
you would have to heat that water line to make sure that it doesn't freeze up in the winter time. So if it's not already heated, there, you would have to have that done.
Yeah, otherwise you're not getting water.
Otherwise it's freezing up. You have to, put it away in the winter time. Or if you're on a well, you're probably already suited to being a year-round water source.
But we have to look at the foundation itself, right?
So yeah, that's what we're getting to next, is the foundation of the property. Sorry, now I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Jenny. I just, you're getting tired talking so much here, honey. So the foundation, if it's on piers, Aaron, right? It's generally the pipes are exposed to the cold, right?
Yeah.
So you want either an enveloped crawl space that is heated in there, or it's a block foundation basement, and basements are pretty rare in cottages. But you need to protect your water, really. And that's why if you do even have a 4 season, you're going to be heating it all winter long. So we ask our buyers, like, are you really going to be using the cottage all year round? Right? Let's be honest. Your kids are in sports, dance, blah, 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 right?
You go to Florida for 2 weeks or a month.
Maybe you don't need a 4 season. You might want it down the road, and then there's ways that you can perhaps make it 4 season, but maybe you don't need it all year round, right? But the price will reflect 3 season versus 4 season.
Yeah, and then you need a heat source, right? So baseboard heating,
wood stove.
And that wood stove baseboard heating is the most common, heat source you're going to find in cottage country. 4 season cottages, we're seeing more often now that people are spending the time, they're upgrading. There are plenty of propane furnaces in cottage country. But yeah, you're going to want a heat source. If you're going to be using the cottage year round, you're going to have to maintain a certain level of heating. Another thing to think about when you're looking at cottage foundations is financing, because a lot of lenders do not like piers.
They don't like the 3 season.
They don't like the 3 season.
More value in 4 season.
Yeah. And in order to get financing, you need potable water.
For the most part, most
lenders are looking, or lenders anyway, are looking for potable water and a heat source. So you need to make sure that when you're working with your buyers, you understand where their money is coming from, because it eliminates a lot of options right off the bat.
Yeah.
Makes a big difference right now with no conditions, I guess.
It does, because a lot of
100%.
people are on the hook for a lot of money that they may not have access to.
Yeah, so we make sure we have that discussion with them ahead of time.
Yeah.
Another question coming in.
Yeah, so short-term rentals, Airbnb. So let's do that first. So we don't work with managed, we do have access.
We do have access to some, and we always recommend in fact, we had a buyer yesterday who's already in his cottage 3 weeks and he wants to start renting it. So I said, okay, if you are, be cautious, right? You don't want to be, you want the money and everything, great, but who are you renting it to? Are they going to destroy your cottage? Are they going to, believe it or not, destroy your reputation on the lake? You just rent it out for the quick cash to someone who's not vetted, and they throw a wild party, and it happens, like a wild 3-day party. You're not going to be very popular in cottage country, right?
Right. Yeah. So we always recommend, we know a few reputable management companies that will take the risk for you. They do all the vetting. They'll even arrange for turnover, because if you live in Waterloo, for instance, and you're coming up here, that's a decent drive. Are you coming up every Saturday afternoon to mow the lawn, change the sheets and clean up? So they'll do all of that. I mean, there's a cost, but they'll do all of that for you. They take all the headache and all the guesswork, and they run it for you. Yeah, we have access to.
How fast is a water quality test? Well, municipal, generally within a week or
5 days.
Yeah.
It's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Our health unit is, I mean, it's cottage country, but we still reasonable speeds. Yeah.
Okay. Any question on that?
No problem.
Aaron?
Okay.
I would just mention, and as I do with typical water quality tests, is it could be good today and bad tomorrow. So,
Mhm.
You know, it's just important to know that. And the quality of the water, of course, you know, a lot of cottages are coming right from the lake, and that's not potable. So, you know,
Yeah.
sense of putting a water quality test in for non-potable water, it's going to come back, you know, so no, you know, you don't want to blow a deal over a water quality test that you know is going to fail, right?
Yeah.
So that's
We don't see that condition very often.
no, but that's the other thing too. Some cottages are like, so even though we live here on the lake, it was our cottage at the time. We drew from the lake, but now just with a basic filters, right? And then we brought up our own water. But now since we lived here now, Aaron, so we have a heated water line that goes and draws from Balsam Lake, comes in through a UV system, and then through a reverse osmosis system. And
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's possible. That's possible in any cottage.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. And no, just knowing whether or not that system's working. I've always said, you know, listen, you know, why don't we, it's not, I mean, you kind of want to know the source of the water. You want to know the flow and make sure it's there, but quality, I'm like, don't even worry about the quality, because you're going to put in a UV system anyway, is what I tell them. You're going to want to do that because, if you want to drink it, it could be good today and then bad tomorrow. So put it in, peace of mind. Nobody's getting sick. So.
And we test ours regularly. We don't just set it and forget it.
Yeah.
We test it on a regular
it's been
basis.
fine.
We've never had issues.
Okay.
Townhome type properties coming up in I don't know about Muskoka. I know there are some townhome properties in town in
It's
Haliburton.
an interesting question because, yeah, as weird as it sounds, there's like on Sturgeon Lake near Fenwick Falls, there's a condo project in construction stage right now.
Mhm.
That may be more of a trend, right?
I think so.
With lack of waterfront, because hey, there's no more lakes being built.
And people who may not want who want the lifestyle but not the maintenance involved, right?
Yeah.
There are if waterfront communities, it's interesting how many waterfront communities there are in the area where
Yes.
a lot of it perfect for people who are retiring to the country.
You
who
think
leave
of
the city.
like Port 32 and Bob Cajun, Aaron, Bayshore Village over near on Lake Simcoe. Lovely options for people that want waterfront, but
want the community too, right?
But they want community too, and these lovely.
Sure.
Another question. How much does it cost to insulate the water line, lake water? An insulated water line could run between $5,000 and $7,000.
Depends on the distance you have to go.
And I know of two systems out there. One's less expensive, one's more expensive. I looked into both actually recently. So yeah, that could be, yeah.
Oh, name the projects. I don't know what it's called in Haliburton Village.
I don't know. We can get back to you though.
Yeah.
You'll have our contacts after and we can dig into
But
that.
if you're looking at Port 32 and Bob Cajun is on Pigeon Lake, and it's beautiful, beautiful high-end condos. There are townhouses, there's condos. They've got a combination of that and freehold. Great community. Bayshore Village on Lake Simcoe, just outside of Aurelia, but there aren't any condos or townhouses. They're just freehold there.
And to be clear, okay, Aaron, we're not Muskoka realtors. Okay, we can go over there if we need to, but it's not our area of expertise. So to serve the best interests of our clients, we stick to where we know Haliburton, Kawartha. So cottage country is a big thing, but Muskoka, it's its own kind of micro market, if you know what I mean, right?
It really is. Because our board goes all the way, I mean, our Lakelands board goes from Aurelia to Bancroft and then north to Perry Sound. It's massive. And I can't sell Perry Sound. I don't know Perry Sound. I don't know what their I've been to Perry Sound, but their water's different than mine. Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Let's keep moving here.
So we're almost done. You're almost free to go.
What time is it, Jim?
It's 5 to 11. We're just dragging on. So beyond the sale. So let's look beyond that. So we know real estate's a people business. And a lot of our buyers are new to our area. When they call us and they come up and they're looking around, they've been to a friend's cottage, they've rented a cottage, but they really don't know the area they're moving to if they're relocating or cottaging. They've got an idea in their head of what they want, but it's all new to them. It's like moving to a foreign land. So they've basically just transplanted themselves to a new community where they know nobody. They have high expectations and they've got dreams of having this lovely lifestyle on the water. But it can be overwhelming and very, very scary for them. And the benefit we bring to our clients is that we're here. We don't go away after the sale. We like to stay in touch with them. We like to be a resource for them. And we reassure them over and over again, because we get calls almost every other day from clients who have moved to the area.
I would
And
say
now-
every other day.
Well,
Jenny.
maybe once every couple of weeks.
There's this one lady here, and that we helped her buy a place 4 years ago. Lovely lady. She bought the cottage as a legacy for her children, and she'll call me at least once a month. We've got a great relationship, and it's like, Dean, I need help with this, or I need this, and now I need that. What about this, and what about that? I love it. I love it because I know that I can help her. I know that with our network of tradespeople, our network of and just knowledge of the area will help her, and that's so important for us because I just. We're so blessed that we live here year round. We're so excited when other people can enjoy what we're doing. And it's almost, I get excited, Jenny. It's almost like I'm a brand new cottager with the new cottage. So docks, what do I do with this? And where do I go to get a boat? And what about that? It's nice to have that support, offer that support to them down the road.
It gives them that peace of mind as well, that they're not just floating in a new world, that there is someone out there who can help them.
Well, and then they start to develop their network of people too that we've entrusted them in,
But that network, I think that's what we're getting at, is that network is so important.
It is.
Our broker told us a story at one of our last meetings.
This one's
terrible.
a good one, Erin.
He got a call from a previous client who was on the lake. It must have been early spring.
Early spring, yeah.
And a dead deer washed up to his shore.
And that's why you have the deer on the
There you go.
Jenny. That's horrible.
It's terrible. I know. That was a bad picture. I
Yeah.
don't know what I was thinking. Anyhow, the deer washed up on the shore. The cottager phoned the MNR, the Ministry of Natural Resources, and said, look, I've got a dead deer here. It's an issue. Can you come and remove it? And they said, that's not our jurisdiction.
That's on you.
That's on you. It's on your property. Deal with it. He's like, well, how do I deal with it? He called our broker and said, hey, Andrew, I've got this issue. There's a dead deer. Andrew said, okay, I know a guy. Don't invite him in the house, but you give him a call. He'll take care of it for you. So
The fixer. The fixer. Yeah, I know a guy.
Yeah, that's
Call
right.
him the fixer.
Well, and here's another one too, and we'll kind of wrap it up on that. But this happened just last year, Aaron. We had some buyers shop all spring, finally found the cottage. They fell in love with it. We got an offer. It's all accepted. And then 3 days before closing, we get a panic call. And we always recommend use local, and local lawyers especially.
Yep.
Chose to take their city lawyer. And I'm not trying to disparage city lawyers whatsoever. But everyone has their areas of expertise, and the lawyers around here have cottage country expertise. Buyers call us. Our lawyer says we can't close this deal because there's an access issue, that we don't have proper access across the municipal land. And I'm like, hold on here. No, we what do we do? Blah, blah.
they
Like,
were nervous buyers to begin with.
oh,
This just
I'm
exacerbated
like, what?
the issue.
Why am I finding it last minute? We start making some calls, and everyone that we're talking, every lawyer's like, we're slammed, sorry. No, I'm like, oh my God, what is going to happen? Finally, our one lawyer saved the day. He says, Dean, I'll work on the weekend for you.
No guarantees.
No guarantees, but I think we can get this resolved. And God bless him, he did. Okay, because otherwise it was going to be a disaster.
Not just that, but he got the
Oh, and
province to sell them the land
They-
for $1.
They bought the access for $1. They own it now.
Wow.
Yeah, so
There's a big thank you gift to him.
He gets all our business now.
Yes. Yeah. So that's just pretty well it, eh, Jenny? Like, what, you got a wrap up or anything?
Yeah, we've got, I guess, just a basic, this is just a little pitch here. Yeah, so we understand waterfront.
like you understand rush hour traffic.
Yeah,
Hmm.
we can read the slide, right? So, it's buying and selling in cottage country is not as easy as buying and selling in established urban neighborhoods. We do have a very strong referral network that we really draw on, that we really enjoy working with.
I can speak to that actually, if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah, that would be
Um,
great.
You know, one of the reasons why I had Dean and Jennifer come on, because I know I've received a lot of phone calls this year from the agents in our company looking for information and, you know, how do I do this? How do I do that up in cottage country? And of course, we want to learn as agents. We're curious as well. And of course, you know, a commission's a commission. If we can make some money, we want to make some money. So we know that agents will come up there, they'll list a house up there, they'll possibly try and purchase a house up there. It can end up being a very frustrating process, but there's a lot of things obviously that can go wrong, and we see this a lot. So our number one suggestion to most agents is that they refer that business. In fact, if you really get technical, the Real Estate Council of Ontario, RICO, does not permit you really to trade in an area that you're unfamiliar with. You cannot provide that client service. So one, if you're up there and you're selling and you're doing it, please, they're a customer, they're not a client, because you really don't know the area. You can't give the legal, I'll say legal, you can't give advice as a realtor knowing the area in order to process in that transaction effectively without knowing the area. And there's so, you know, we all often say in our area, the difference between one street and the next street is there's a big difference. So if you know that, you're letting your client know that. Well, up in cottage country, you know, one lake's different than another lake is different to another shoreline, different to another septic system and everything you went over today. So I really appreciate that. So throughout this year, I know Rochelle Covents, you guys, she had a situation where she was actually using a local realtor up there already, and they just weren't getting back. And I don't, Dean, Jennifer, you guys are both from, you know, sort of from the city originally. And
Yes.
the difference, I think a little bit, as you get further north is I don't know, we find it that the agents work at a different pace. And so I said to Rochelle, I said, you got to give Dean a call and he'll take over and look after you. So they had something up with them. Anyway, so I won't go into the detail, but she was just absolutely so happy. She called me, oh my God, they're amazing. They got us, they worked with Aaron. I can't thank you. And don't thank me. I mean, Dean did all the work. So Rochelle was really happy. And of course, Richard's done a few deals with you, Richard Gibb as well from our company. I can't say enough about you guys. So the importance of a referral network, of course, is the customer experience. And as long as you can give that customer and client the experience and pass them along or refer them along to somebody else with a similar mindset, you're going to have that client for life. And I've often talked again with Dean about this. If the fear as some real estate agents in our area is, if I refer them up there, are they going to take my client? Right now they've got a relationship. Maybe they provide better service than me. I don't know. They want to use with them in the future. And Dean's assured me, I mean, that's just not the way Dean and Jennifer do business. I recently was on the it was a Real Estate Hacks website, the group that we were on Facebook. And one of the situations where they referred somebody to somebody up north, and that agent ended up listing their house. They did the right thing up north, bought them a house, and then actually listed the house in the city. The up north agent took and actually convinced them to use them instead of the original referral agent. Can you imagine?
Oh,
So listen, I wholeheartedly trust Dean and Jennifer. So if anybody is looking to refer somebody up Kawartha Lakes, big fan of that area. I like the East End. Muskoka has gotten ridiculous in terms of price, and to be honest with you, it's not as it's microcosm, like you said. So long-winded, but
well, thank you, Aaron, and yes, let's reassure everyone. Like I would never take a residential listing out of my area.
No.
There's no way, because our whole goal is to help people. We need to pay our bills too, but how can we serve our clients' best interests if we don't know the area? Like, seriously, I mean, it's not our model. And besides, I don't want to have to drive down the city. That's why I moved out of the city. Okay.
It's great having great people across the board. You're a perfect referral source for the Kawarthas. Thank you so much for watching. If you like our video, please hit the like button, the subscribe, and even the little bell to get notifications, just so you can stay in touch and watch more of these great videos.